fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at the 3-pack of Star Raiders Thundertron and Nightstrike and Infernac Universe Calcitron for the Transformers Legacy United line from Hasbro. Now this was part of the Star Raider capsule that was exclusive to Walmart this year. And I know what you're thinking, didn't we already get Thundertron? Yes, we did. Thundertron was released as a single Voyager back in the first wave of Legacy United, but they have changed it up slightly and done it as a 3-pack because they knew you wouldn't buy him again on his own because it's not that different, but this is kind of standard for Hasbro. And I get it, you know, Thundertron has the whole pirate motif, you know, he's got the peg leg and everything, and I get it, but you know, don't give it to me as a single release and then bundle it with these figures. I really don't like when they do that kind of stuff. The only real reason I picked this up was I was able to get it on Black Friday for half price, and I felt like $30 was what I would pay for Nightstrike and Calcitron, so he's basically free at this point. So the price was right, so I decided to jump on it. But I think it's kind of funny the way these are packed. It kind of just looks like a standalone Thundertron release. Calcitron is over here in vehicle mode, kind of tightly packed against the side, and then you can see Nightstrike up here. This is a Rat Bat repaint from back in Siege, and Calcitron is a remold / repaint of Magnius that we also got back in Wave 1. So, kind of an interesting 3-pack here, but yeah, boxes, probably I would say like a liter size box. Everything's just kind of tightly crammed in here, but I do like the artwork of all the characters here on the front. And then Nightstrike is hanging out here on top. Over here on this side, you get a kind of close-up of a robot mode of Thundertron, and then Calcitron here in vehicle mode. Over here on this side, you have your standard half of the Legacy United mural. Not really much going on down the bottom. Just have Legacy United and Nightstrike there on the top. And if we spin it around to the back, we get product shots of robot mode and alt mode for all three. So, pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead, get everything out of the box here, and we'll take a closer look. So here are the 3 figures that are included in the box. Of course, we have Thundertron, Nightstrike, and Calcitron. Exactly how they come packaged in the box. Just wanted to do a quick group shot all together. We'll start with Thundertron. So taking a look at Thundertron, I mean, I think he looks pretty good. He looks almost exactly the same as the one we got earlier this year, and it was a good mold then, and I feel like the mold still looks good. Just to put them side by side, because I feel like that's what most people are going to want to know right up front. We can see the differences. Right off the bat, you can see that this was a much darker shade of blue than we have over here, and they are different head sculpts. This one is definitely thinner and taller. And I have to say, I think I do prefer the original head sculpt a little bit better. He also has a hook hand over here, which is kind of neat. They both have the ability to take this foot off. I swear it can come off. There we go. And give him a peg leg. You can do that on both of these. So we'll take those off. And I do like that aspect of it. I think that's kind of neat. The sword is exactly the same. And honestly, most of this is the same. It's really just the lighter shade of blue, the hook hand, and the different head sculpt. It's really the only differences here. Otherwise, it's the exact same toy. I do like the hook hand, but like I said, I think I do really prefer the original head sculpt. So, I don't know. Maybe I could pop this off. It's probably just on a mushroom peg. Yeah, it's just on a mushroom peg in there. So, I could maybe pop the hook hand off of there and put that over here and make my own personal favorite Thundertron, which maybe I'll try a little bit later on. I think I kind of like the darker blue better as well. This is fine. Like, I like the lighter blue for the metallic paint. But as far as the overall just like lighter blue of the plastic, I think the darker blue works better with the gold. It just kind of pops more. But that's just me. But yeah, it's mostly the same toy. Alright, so now that the differences are out of the way, let's take a look at the figure itself. Of course, first I'm going to just go ahead and take the sword out of his hand just to get that out of the way. But we'll take a look at the head. And I think they did a nice job with it. I like how he has an eye patch. I think that's kind of a neat feature there. And I do like the beard. You have the braids in there, all that. Like I said, personally, I think I do prefer the original head sculpt. But that's not to say that this one is bad. I think it's kind of neat. You do have some swivel side to side there. And you have a little bit of back and forth, but not a ton. You have the giant shoulder pads that can kind of move up and down a little bit. You have a swivel and a hinge here for the shoulder. You have a swivel right above the elbow. as well as the elbow bend, which I would say is a little over 90 degrees. You do have a hand swivel there. You can see the mushroom peg. It's a little difficult to utilize, though, because of the giant claw, which I do like the look of the claw, and it's painted nicely, but it does kind of make it hard for the hand to move around. It doesn't really want to bend the other way at all. That might be the mushroom peg, yeah, but you can get it to go. You, again, have the hollow forearms, which is kind of a bummer, but it was the same on the original as well. You have these side skirt pieces here, which are on ball joints, so you can move them around. This piece here on the back can move around a little bit. So there is a waist swivel, but it's kind of hard to get at it because there's a lot of stuff in the way. But you can move that around. The hook hand can also move just like the other hand. Just to point that out, it has the same swivel. For the hips, you can kick decently far forward, decently out to the side. You have a thigh swivel there. You have a 90 degree, maybe over, yeah, I would say over 90 degree bend there in the knee, as well as a swivel right above the knee. And then you have ankle tilt over here on this one, as well as front to back. And then for the peg leg, you can swivel on the peg leg, but it doesn't really have ankle tilt. It does have some front to back a little bit, but that's it. It doesn't have tilt, so that's kind of a bummer. Just where we're at with this, but overall, if you didn't get the original, I think this is a nice one to have. But if you already have the original, I can totally understand why you don't feel you need another one, because I really didn't feel I needed another one. The subtle differences are cool, but not enough to rebuy it, in my opinion. So if you're like me and you were able to get this for a sale because the other two are, you know, worth it, in my opinion, because they're remolds / repaints, but they're at least different enough. This guy really just has the head sculpt and the hook hand, and everything else is pretty much the same except for the lighter shade of blue. But it's still a good figure. Like I said, if you never got the original, I think this guy is good to have, and I do like the pirate motif. So, yeah, not too bad. We'll go ahead and we'll get into transformation. So if you've handled the other Thundertron, transformation is exactly the same. Nothing really changes here. We're going to grab a hold of this whole chest head, or I should say lion head chest situation. Grab a hold of this and kind of pull it forward, utilizing these hinges here. And then once you have clearance, you'll be able to lift this up over the robot head. You're going to put the arms out to the side and turn them. And then you're going to want to turn these in as well. And that will allow you to bring them in. I think I have these wrong, my apologies. These have to go like this and then in so that you can bring these up. So let me fix that. These will come in, and you need the two forearms to peg into each other. You can see the large tab slot there and the tab here. So rotate that around, and then you can peg these in together like so. And then you can utilize the hinges to bring these up. And you can see that there are these two little like slots here on the forearms right above the wrists, and they will kind of soft tab into these little spots right here. So you just kind of bring these up and they will kind of sit in there. And it doesn't really tab in, it's just kind of a guide. But that'll sit in there. And then you can see this little flap right here has two little peg holes, which will peg into the bottom of the fists. That's what this little spot here on the bottom of the hook hand is for. So this will come down and peg into the two of those. Just make sure everything is lined up. And that kind of solidifies that section. Then we're going to come here to the back and lift this up. And this little tab will tab into underneath the lion head. And there is a little tab right here, which will go into this spot right here. So bring this up and down. If I can get this to go in here. Okay, I think I don't have this lined up 100% correctly. There we go. Bring this down. There it is. Okay, so now that's all tabbed in and good to go. Leave this section up here for a second. So get the tail out of the way, get these ball joints out of the way. You're going to swivel here where the gray meets the blue at the thigh. Swivel that around 180 degrees. And then you're going to swivel again at this white meets the gray swivel here right above the knee, like so. And then that will allow you to bring this section forward at this like shin area, which I'm not really sure why it's not doing it now. There we go. So it's kind of like tabbed in. You have to kind of keep pushing until it goes. There we go. So that's kind of how you want these back legs to be. So once again, we will swivel this around, swivel this around, and then push this, kind of untab it, bring it down like so, and then you just kind of angle these out of the way, and then this will come down, and there are 2 tab slots underneath, right there, which will tab into these tabs right here. So this just kind of comes down and tabs into place, and then you just kind of have these back here like that, and then you're going to take these little sections and flip them back like that. Then we're going to take the shoulder pads and open them up. The claws will pop out. You're going to rotate these 90 degrees because this big circle peg will peg in here to the forearm. So this just comes down and pegs in there, and then you just kind of bring this down to close it up. So lift this up, flip this out, rotate this 90, bring it down, peg it into the side of the forearm, bring that down, and then straighten out your lion legs, put the tail down, and there you go. You have Thundertron transformed. So I have the back legs mistransformed. I knew I was missing something. This is supposed to come around, and this bends back, and then this tucks up like this. So get these out of the way, bring this around. You can kind of see naturally there's kind of a groove there right here where the leg will kind of sit in, and bring this back and then position these like this. I knew something was wrong. I was like, I'm missing something. There we go. Okay, now we have Thundertron properly transformed into his lion mode. Looks good. You can kind of play around with these a little bit. If you want them all the way out like they were in the chest mode, you can. But they're meant to kind of fold back a little bit. I think the lion head looks great. You have the opening and closing mouth with the really nice painted fangs, which looks really good. The eyes, the brows, all that's nicely painted. Not really any articulation except for like this swivel and this swivel, because these are pegged into the side. And then technically you have a good amount of articulation here, whatever was in the feet. You can move the tail a little bit as well. But yeah, overall, I think it's a pretty cool look. If you want, you can store the sword. You can see that there's a tab right there and a tab slot right there. So you can just peg this in right here. And technically, you could store it there in robot mode as well. But yeah, there is Thundertron in lion form, and I think it looks pretty good. Next up, we'll move on to Calcitron, which is just a repaint. I don't even think it's that much of a remold of Magnius. But it looks good. I really like the colors. You know, it definitely has kind of a ice vibe to it, which I think is kind of neat. You can see that the weapon can peg here onto the back. Very simple. You just have these 2 pegs right here, and they peg on here and here, but I'll remove it for now. Rolls pretty well. I started with this one in vehicle mode just because that's how it was packaged. You know, so normally I would start out with robot mode, but since it came in the box this way, I figured we'd start out. But yeah, looks pretty good. Rolls pretty well. I definitely love the icy motif to it, so let's go ahead and let's get into transformation. Alright, so I'm going to start by just taking off these pieces from the side. I just think it's easier to do that and put them back on later on, especially since I'll put them in a different spot. You can leave them on if you want. They can stay on the back of the forearms, but I like to put them on the back of the legs, so that's what I'll be doing. But yeah, we are just going to start by grabbing a hold of the legs and flipping them around like so. Then we can split them apart. They'll kind of kick all the way over. Then you're going to take the feet here and just bring them down like so. Pretty simple to do. Next, you're going to take the arms and just kind of bring them out to the side here. Flip the hands up and rotate them like so. There we go. Next, we're going to take I might just take this off too. You don't have to, but just for simplicity's sake. You're going to flip the head around like this, and then you're going to bring in the wheels, which you can't see because I'm zoomed in too much. Let me angle this up. So flip the head around to here, and then you're going to bring the wheels in like this and like this. And then you kind of have to bring these out to make sure there's enough room for this to kind of rock in like that. And it will kind of make this bend as well, but this will kind of come in and position itself. I feel like this needs to go back further. And then the arms will tab on to these spots here on the side. All right, it's not cooperating for me. Bring this down. All right, well, I'll mess with it, but that's basically the gist of it. These peg into the side, and then you have your robot mode. You can take this piece and put it here on the back like that. And then you can take these pieces, and you can see that there are tabs here and here. And so you just line these up, and they will tab in to the back of the legs. Again, you can leave them on the forearm if you like. I just think they look cooler because it fills in the kind of hollow back of the leg, and it gets it out of the way. Because if you kind of put it here, they're on the back of the forearms, and I just think it looks a little cluttered. And then we can put the weapon in his hand, and there is Calcitron in robot mode. I love the look of this guy. I'll be honest, this is the main reason I wanted the set. I've had a lot of fun with the Rock Lords this year. I'm sorry, the Infernac universe characters. But yeah, the Rock Lords have been a lot of fun. I mean, this is our third version of this mold, and I don't even care. They did a great job all three times. I love the head sculpt. I love how it's asymmetrical. Just the expression, the red eyes and the mouth are perfectly painted. Everything about this head sculpt is really, really fantastic. You can see we have a side-to-side swivel there. You have the wheels on the chest, which I think works really well. You have a swivel here. You have a hinge underneath. Now, because they are the Infernac universe Rock Lords, whatever we want to call them, you know, they have that ability to pop off and become like armor for the other characters. I'm not going to show that here. I feel like we understand how that works by now. But of course, you can kind of pop these pieces off and stuff as we go around. But I think these, do these pop off too? I think they do. Yeah, so like these pieces can pop off, all that kind of stuff, but you get the idea. So anyway, we have the hinge and the swivel there. You have a swivel right above the elbow, 90 degrees at the elbow. You have the movement in the arm. You can kind of move this up and down as well as spin it around. You have a waist swivel there. Really nice kick forward. Really nice kick out to the side. Kick backwards. Spin right above the knee. Knee bend there. You have really nice ankle tilt. Plus you can do front to back because of the transformation. So this has always been a really great mold, and I think this is a really great remold / repaint. In my opinion, I believe only thing that's different here is the head sculpt, but it's a really great head sculpt. I think they did such a good job. And just for fun, here are the other two versions of this mold. So you have the original in Magnus, and then you have Nucleus over here, which was our first repaint / remold. But yeah, these guys are fun. I like the Rock Lords. They're really, really neat. I mean, it's the same mold, but I feel like, you know, with the paint schemes and the remolding, they're different enough that they really feel like three individual characters, and I think that's really, really cool. So, really loving all three of these. And then last up here we have Nightstrike, which is just a repaint of Ratbat, but I think he looks pretty good. I really like the paint here on the head. I like the teal eyes, the black all around the head. You have a little bit of silver there in the mouth. I feel like the painting's a little uneven on mine, but overall looks good. You have the little Star Raider symbol there. I like the teal here on the wings. I think that works really well. And then just to show him with his counterpart, here is Ratbat. So it's definitely an older mold, but it's a fun one, and I'm kind of glad they brought it out again. They work pretty well. So transformation for this guy is super simple. You're just going to fold up the little legs. You're going to take the head and just kind of push it back till it goes to about there, and then you're going to bring the wings down, and then you're going to flip this up. You can see the little tabs here. They'll tab in right there. So this guy should fit in Siege Soundwave if you have him. I felt like the later ones were a little difficult because they were so thick, but it should work. But what he is supposed to transform into, as you can see here, is a pirate flag. You can see the skull there. Kind of the inverse of the Jolly Roger, whereas that would normally be black with a white skull. Here they went with white with a black skull. But still a really cool idea, you know, because he's a cassette, he'd be rectangular. What else is rectangular? A flag. So I wish there was a way to kind of attach him, or maybe like attach a flagpole or something. I think it would be really neat if they, I don't know how you would do it, to be fair. I mean, you do have this little connector point here, but that's right in the middle of the flag. That's what the mold had previously. But I think it would be neat if they came up with some kind of piece that could connect. I don't know how they would do it, though. They'd have to remold like a connection spot, and there's not really anywhere to do that, so I understand why they didn't. But it would have been neat if they could have come up with something, even if it was just like a new piece, like this could maybe slide into, so just like with friction or something like that. But to make this into a flag that one of the other characters could hold, I think that would have been really neat. As it stands, while this is a cool idea, there's not really a way to feature it other than to just have it somewhere. Like, one of the other characters can't hold it unless you would peg it in somewhere like this, but then you'd peg that in and then you wouldn't see it. So maybe they could have painted it on this side to fix that, but then you'd have it all there on the chest for Nightstrike. So it's a difficult way to get this to go. I appreciate what they did. I just wish there was some way we could actually turn it into a flag that one of the other figures could hold, but alas, not the case. But still a really neat idea. And real quick before we wrap up, there's one other thing I wanted to show off. So if you take a look at Thundertron, the one shoulder pad has just a normal connection spot, and this one has these two slits. And that is actually so you can take Nightstrike and just pop his little feet in those holes, and you can actually have him perch on his shoulder. Now, the original has this too, which I think is kind of interesting. So I don't know if this is something that they planned on from the beginning. It's not something they remolded for this, but it is a really cool feature that you can utilize on either Thundertron. So if you're like me and you kind of prefer the other one, you can still utilize this feature, which I think is really cool. But I think this is great, and I'm so glad you can do this. So ultimately, I think this is a fun release. I just don't really understand why we had to get two versions of Thundertron. It would be one thing if it was like a year or so difference, but it was literally earlier this year that we got, you know, the beginning of Legacy United with our first version of Thundertron. And I just don't really like when Hasbro does this thing where they just try to make us buy two versions of the same mold. At least they did put in some differences. I do like the new head sculpt, and I do like the hook hand. But ultimately, I think I like the darker blue of the original over this lighter blue. But, I mean, everyone's going to, you know, have different opinions about that. So, again, if you never got the original, I think this one's definitely great to pick up. I absolutely love Calcitron, though, and I think Nightstrike's a lot of fun as well. So, again, if you could get this on sale to the point that this guy's almost free, I think $30 for these two is definitely worth it. I really, really like these two quite a bit, so I am ultimately happy that I was able to pick this up. I don't have a problem with the new Thundertron. I just don't think it's different enough or better enough than the original to warrant that second pickup. But like I said, if you can find the sale, it's definitely worth it. These two are absolutely fantastic, and I'm so glad I was able to get a hold of them. Again, don't mind having him, but I definitely just don't think he was needed. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks so much for watching.